Hey, how's it going today, YouTube? I'm out here at my plant station once again, and I just wanted to make a video showing how to make some of the sand propagation items or containers. I have a couple different means. On the last sand propagation video, actually with this sandbag video, I had a subscriber, Green Gardens, come up with a fantastic idea, and I'm not sure why I'd never thought of this idea, but he or she had mentioned using a sandbag for sand propagation. And so I did put some sand into a sandbag, and there's a couple things that I noticed just right off the get-go that I wanted to share. But I think it's a viable option. And the neat thing about using a sandbag for this application would be the fact that you don't need wire mesh, and the fact that it has excellent drainage. And so it would be essentially a one-stop shop in making a sand propagation container for doing cuttings or to propagate out seed for seedlings and things of that nature. So I do think it's a viable option. There's just a couple things that I've noticed since trying it that I want to share with you. So let me get you into a better view and I'll go over those items. Hang tight. Okay, well, as you can see, I've got you set up here on an aerial view, and I put some sand into the sandbag, and I went ahead and I watered it, and I put it in as tightly packed as possible. And as you can see, I had a major stress crack go along the center of the sandbag itself, and it also looks like there are some cracking along the periphery of the bag. And so what that tells me is that the bag has settled, and just because it's not a firm container like these plastic mountain houses would be here, it's, you know, it has some flex to it. And with that, I think that that's where the crack has come from, the settling of the sand within the sandbag. And so I think that if it was continued to be watered and settled, if you could settle it in some means, to where it wouldn't resettle, if the sides were in a permanent type position to where it couldn't expand and contract, then the cracking wouldn't be an issue. And I'm not sure, I haven't tested it to see if I had cuttings in here, if that cracking would affect the cuttings and the propagation, or how that would work. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to use a sandbag for this late winter. I do all my major cutting propagation during the late winter time, and I'll do all my mulberries and just everything in the yard that I propagate by cutting, I'll do. And so I'm working my way up to that point, so I'm getting all my sand ready and all that good stuff. So I'm going to try it on some mulberry, I presume, and I'll just see how it works and the outcome of it, and I'll be able to distinguish if there's any advantage using the sandbag, or if it would just be advantageous to continue using the coffee mugs and the oil containers that have to be made. I want to make an extra couple coffee mugs. I've got some coffee mugs on hand, so I could run. Actually, I did stop off at, well, I was in Walmart and I checked to see if they had any oil containers, and I just couldn't find one. And so I'm just going to use some coffee mugs. The only disadvantage with the coffee mugs is that you can't fit as many cuttings per mug, but on the flip side, they are a much deeper container to where you can get more cutting within the sand itself. And so it does have its advantages using the coffee containers. And so I'll just go show you how I go about making one of these. I do have some nylon screen that I've just had on hand from various projects. And so it's a nylon porch screen. You can pick this stuff up at a big box store, and this is the size it came in, which I think is probably about 8 inches or so. And it's, I don't know how long the roll is, but it's got quite a bit here. So this stuff, just having this kind of stuff around the garden is very handy to have around. And so that's what I'm going to be using to line the bottom of the coffee mugs. And I've also got my hacksaw here. I've got my drill for the drainage holes. And so I'll just show you quickly how I go about making these. And if you wanted to make one, you've got reference on how I go about doing it. So hang tight once again. Well, I was going to try to use my hacksaw, but it just didn't seem to go very well for me. It was just taking a little bit of time. So I went ahead and just got some of my shears, and I think I'll just use these to go to work on this coffee can. The shears are a little dull, so hopefully I won't have too many issues with it. Alright, well that made pretty quick work of it, beat using the hacksaw, and I went ahead and already did the other one as well. So they are pretty much full size, just except without the tapered top. And so let me grab some sand and we'll go ahead and, oh actually no, let's go ahead and drill out the bottoms. What am I thinking? So I've just got a standard bit here. The hole size really doesn't matter. You just on the bottom, if you do use these coffee mugs, this little recessed lip here, I like to get a couple holes, maybe right into the center. So it does have a way to drain. Get one there, there, back here on these. And get a couple more for good measure there. That way it's got plenty of drainage holes, as you can see. So we'll go ahead and do the other one. Okay, now I went ahead and just pre-cut a couple things. I just want to see how they fit in here, and you can just fold these as well to fit. You don't have to cut them perfectly. So what I'll do is I'll just put them in, and then I'll just kind of fold them over, which is fine. And then once the sand sits on it, it'll weight it down. So just as long as those drainage holes are all covered, which they are. And so I'll do the other side here as well. Okay, and there's that one. I will grab a little bit of sand. I have a whole kiddie pool full of sand in a shady spot on the right behind my rear porch there. And I used to propagate out of a little kiddie pool with a little dome on it, but ever since I started making them in my greenhouse, I just do it all in the greenhouse, and it's the same thing but just on a much larger scale, and I can do a lot more, which is why I've switched over to these containers. I just kind of do a little pound to settle the sand. I try to get it as close to the top as possible. It might settle just a little bit, and so if you got a little bit of settlement, then there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, well that's pretty much it for those guys. So within just a matter of a few minutes, I went ahead and made 2 new containers. I've got my sandbag over here, which is off camera, but I showed you the sandbag. And so that's how easy it is. If you have some coffee mugs, go ahead and just keep a couple of them, and you can easily make those. Or if you plan to use some sandbags, you can try that method as well. So I hope this helps you out. I hope it shows you just how easy it is to get some of these containers set up. And you could even build just a little dome around this if you wanted to, you know, maybe put something on the periphery and just put a baggie over it, and then, you know, like do a zip tie around it or something like that. It would be very easy to put a dome over these if you don't have a greenhouse or a humid location. You don't really need that, but it's going to significantly increase the success rate of whatever you're doing. So the more humid it is, the less you have to water, and the more ideal the conditions for a propagation would be. So it would be very simple to put a dome over these and just keep them in a nice humid environment. So I hope this helps you out today. I do definitely appreciate you coming in and checking out the video and checking out the channel, and I hope you have a great day today. God bless you all. Take care. Bye-bye.